usually read from the Bible and from the Redheaded Hostess. It is a seminary teacher who um, kind of knows all kinds of stuff. I consider her a scholar, if you will. So, Mordecai, so here's the chapter summary. Mordecai receives great honors. Haman mourns and is counseled by his wife. Okay, so then we also have this. Okay, so on that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, that they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthan, Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, "What honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this?" So remember, this was Mordecai telling Esther about this. And this was like when he was told about protecting the king, um, because his people had been plotting against him. So then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, "There's nothing been done for him, or there is nothing done for him." So like normally something like this would, protecting the king would be like this big thing that people would want to do to like celebrate the person who like saved the king, right? And but the record showed that there was nothing done. And so that is like pretty wild. And what happened is that very night, the night between the two banquets, the king's heart will be turned to Mordecai. So he was not able to sleep. So he called for the book of records, right? So this would have been a historical book, a book of remembrance of the things that are done in the kingdom. And it was then that the reading that he was reminded of how Mordecai was the one who revealed the assassination plot against him. Okay, so and this is in Esther chapter 2. We'll remember that we read that. The king then asked about doing stuff for him, and nothing, there had been nothing done for him. And so then we read in verse 4, says, "And the king said, Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, Behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, Let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, To whom would the king delight to honor more than to myself? So Haman answered the king, For the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head, and let his apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man with all whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done for the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Right? So, like all these things, like fun things to be done because he was delighting the king, right? So then, verse 10, the king said to Haman, okay, so what's hilarious is Haman probably thought this was for him. Like, how should we honor me, right? And he was probably like, oh, you should do all these amazing things. Oh, excuse me. So then Verse 10, Then the king said to Haman, Make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai, the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Could you imagine this moment for Mordecai? He would have been like, just like so taken aback, especially that Haman had to do all this for him, right? So, and Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning and having his head covered. Yeah, because now he couldn't do that, right? So imagine just how surprised Mordecai must have been when Haman brought all these things to him, right? And imagine the hope that this must have given Mordecai. Did this come through Esther? Was the king's heart changing? Would the king change the royal decree? And imagine how Haman must have been tortured to give the very Jew who refused to bow to him these honors that he probably thought is going to do this, right? So, anyway, it was just like wild. So, what, like, just an awesome thing, right? That this was happening. So, verse 13, and Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Good, because this is what needs to be happening. Hold on, there's something. Oh, okay. Um, so anyway, so here's what's coming. You know, he's telling his friends, he's telling his wife, and then the king's servants are like, "Hey, Haman, come on over. We're gonna do the banquet." So now he must be like so nervous. Like Haman must be like, "I don't even know what's gonna happen. This is crazy." And so like, but maybe now Mordecai is going to prevail over Haman, right? And so like, how true this would turn out to be. Then, while they were yet talking with him, he gets interrupted, and then the king's servants are trying to bring him. Like, it's just like, this feels like a movie, right? Like, doesn't this feel like a movie? Like, they should make this into like a movie, but like not like a movie like that's been done in the past. It's kind of not as cool, but like you know, put effort into making this movie because I think it would be awesome. Like so much drama. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so um, I wanted to also, so we're at the end of this chapter, but I wanted to also bring something up, right? So we're still, if if you're still feeling like you're lying to your friends about being fine, the longer you pretend, the longer you carry this pain alone. And so I've created this monthly Christ-centered hug in the mail filled with truth healing tools, simple challenges, also some like fun decals and art that help you move from surviving to thriving. Um, because I have been there and I know how hard it is. That betrayal trauma is so hard. And so, from a sister who gets it, if you're interested, get more information at warriorletters.com to get your first supply drop. So, until our reading of Esther chapter 7 to see what happens, stay strong, warrior.